Hey, what's up? Welcome to DGenEd. That's degenerative education, meaning none of this is financial advice. Just me having fun looking at charts like the charts behind me, which are of Bitcoin mining stocks and other related companies. And so I got some requests to go over, Bitcoin miners and these other tickers. And I thought I would just combine it into one video. It might be a little bit of a rough cut, but I think this is the only way for me to really get through all of these. And so, I will put timestamps down below to the tickers of, that I'm covering that you might be interested in. And so I'm going to start the video by just going over what the tickers are, and then I will dive into them going in alphabetical order. And I should note, though, that, I haven't really looked at these charts in a while. Some of them I've never looked at before. And so if I do analysis on one at the beginning, I might see something in a chart later that relates to that earlier stock. And so, my analysis could, kind of evolve over the course of this video. So I'd encourage watching the whole thing, but if you don't have time for it, there are timestamps down below. So, I'm going to get started here. So the first ticker is Sphere 3D, which is ticker symbol ANY. The next one I'll be going over is Applied Digital, ticker symbol APLD. Then I'll be doing Bitfarms, ticker symbol BITF. Then next up is Bit Digital, ticker symbol BTBT. Also be going over Cleanspark, ticker symbol CLSK, and CORZ Scientific, ticker symbol CORZ. Next up is HIVE Digital Technologies, ticker symbol HIVE, and then also Hut8 Mining, ticker symbol HUT. Then next is Iris Energy Ltd, which is ticker symbol IREN. Also, we'll be doing Marathon Digital, ticker symbol MARA, as well as Riot Platforms, ticker symbol RIOT. And of course, finally, Terawulf, ticker symbol WLF. Ticker symbol WULF. Anyways, getting on with Sphere 3D. Here, I haven't looked at this one in a while. I got all this stuff up on the chart, and you know what I'm going to do for this video? Please don't tell anyone. I am going to delete all of those drawings that I put up there because, I think that I want to start clean with this one. And the reason why I want to start clean is I don't think I necessarily need a Fibonacci retracement. There's one thing that does stand out with me with the chart. You might be able to recognize it, but I'm just drawing this trend line here, and I might adjust this pivot point just a little bit. And I should note, for the most part, the lines in this video are going to be approximate. I'm not going to draw them to the penny just because that would take too much time. But anyways, just looking at, I'm actually not going to lock that so I know it's not to the penny. Looking at this, I think it looks like an inverse head and shoulders pattern. I don't know what you think. It looks like the left shoulder here, head here, and then right shoulder. So, I could view there being a potential breakout here. However, when we did go up to that neckline on the 7th, so on Friday of last week, and I should note I'm recording this on Monday, June 10th. And so from Friday last week, we wicked up to approximately that neckline, but got rejected. So maybe that doesn't look so good. So I would look for a move back up to, let's see, what was the high on Friday? The high was $1.47. So really, I'd look for a reclaim of $1.50. I think that would look pretty good, but then getting a break above this downtrend, I think that would be pretty important. And so with, any head and shoulders pattern, whether it's inverse or non-inverse, we can do a measurement from the bottom here at 80 cents a share going up to that neckline, get that measurement to get an idea of where price could be going. And so let's say, we did get a break above that level, maybe consolidate for a few days and then go up. That would then represent about a 50% upside move from that neckline, bringing price up to around $1.23.7, just approximate $1.25. So $2.25. So going up about $1 from the current price. So I could see that happening. And let's see, are there any levels over here that kind of correspond with that high that make a little bit of sense? There is this little bit of a gap here, but that has definitely been filled over here. So I don't really see that as being too notable. But, it does look like there were a number of tops up here. So, maybe even price gets up to around 250. I am not sure. But, if, let's say I'm wrong, maybe price doesn't go to the upside, I think it does look good. I think the chart looks like price is going higher, but let's say I'm wrong. I think a level that we might want to be paying attention to is, let's see, this uptrend right here. So what was the low on this day? It was 8 cents. I'm going to try to get this to the penny, but it's going to be a little bit off, I'm sure. It's a fraction of a penny off. But yeah, I mean, I could see if we do get, a very clear rejection, maybe we don't try to retest that level soon and we get a complete rejection, start to break down, I would look for a retest of this uptrend. And so that is based on the low from December 1st of 2023 and then the pivot low over here that was hit on May 14th. So yeah, I mean, I would look for, ideally a break above $1.50, but if we don't get that, maybe a retrace to maybe 90 cents or $1. I think $1 is a pretty significant level, so I'd look for that. But generally, I think any is looking pretty good with this inverse head and shoulders pattern, but those don't always play out, and it's quite possible that what we saw following Friday, or really during Friday when we got that rejection and closed down here, we did get a move up following that, but really, since we did get that rejection on Friday, maybe that's not going higher, but I'd still keep an eye on $1.50. But so now I'm going to flip over to Applied Digital, ticker symbol APLD, and here, excuse me for any throat clears in this video, I apologize about that. But so for Applied Digital, it did close at a price of $4.13. And this one, I do think is pretty similar to any, with this inverse head and shoulders pattern. It's quite possible there's an inverse head and shoulders pattern here, which I do believe I've gone over in previous videos. But it also, just like any, does look like it got rejected from that line right around, $4.86, which, I guess has some historical significance, did serve as support over here. They get some consolidation above it and then rejections from it over here. So that is, potentially a level of importance, as we did get rejected from it over the course of the past couple trading days. And so what I could see with this is, really, unfortunately, I could see a retest of like $3.85. So coming back a little bit from there, from current price, it doesn't look so great, but maybe there is a bounce there. I could see it going higher, maybe to test this uptrend. And actually, it's gotten rejected from that uptrend multiple times. And so that could be, let's see, with price actually, coming down, looking red these 2 days, we see volume going up. And so when price goes down while volume's going up, you got kind of a divergence in the price relative to volume. That suggests price is going down. Whether, if price is going up but volume's going down, it suggests you're going to get a reversal. And so here with this divergence, you have price coming down while volume's going up. That suggests a continuation to the downside. So I could definitely see a retest of 385. And since it does look like it's gotten rejected from that uptrend multiple times, I could potentially see a retest of 350. But that, I would be kind of compelled to think that that's like a dip buying opportunity if it does go down there, because I think, after all of this bleeding, it'd just be people losing complete faith in it, losing all confidence and conviction in their plays. But if it did come down there, it could potentially be finding support there. As it was this very pivotal support here on November 13th before this massive move to the upside. So going from that low up to that high represents, let's see, more than 140% move to the upside, almost 150% move to the upside there. And so that was a bounce off of that orange line. And we also got, a wick up to that orange line before a pullback. So I could actually see that as being a nice dip buying opportunity, potentially, although maybe, it's just going to cascade downwards. But if it does dip down there, I'd be, you could convince me, I could convince myself that that's a good dip buying opportunity. But if 350 doesn't hold, it got that wick right here. That is around a price of $3.20, or let's say $3.25. Maybe there's a bottom formed there if 385, 350, or 320 to 25 don't hold. Of course, if we're not able to get back to 486 and really, getting above $5 a share would be nice. But, like I said, I do see this inverse head and shoulders pattern. And, as long as we stay above the low That was hit on June 6th. That was at a price of $3.83.5. We could potentially be forming another inverse head and shoulders pattern here, as we do have, a little mini left shoulder here, head, and, as long as we don't get lower than that head peak there, that little head valley, then this could be an inverse head and shoulders, and we could be going higher. So something to think about there. But generally, I feel like this one is kind of, giving me mixed signals of going lower for dip buys down here, or if it's going to be breaking above. It did get rejected here, so I think it kind of tells you that it might be going lower. So I'd look for that. But I'm going to switch over to the next one, which is Bitfarms, ticker symbol BITF. And so here it does look like we got rejected. I can't remember the last time I looked at this chart. Usually do it during live streams. It does get requested periodically. And this is one of the things that I think is really cool about Fibonacci retracements. I did this retracement here from the top that was hit on April 23rd, coming down to the low of $1.52. And before I get talking about the prices, I should note that it did close on June 10th today at a price of $2.30. So should be noting that. But really just from this retracement here, I just drew the levels there, but then included the extension of the 1618 at a price of $2.52. We have not seen one close above that. We almost got an open above it on June 6th. That was an open at a price of $2.52. So, 0.4 pennies below that level. And we couldn't claim it. We couldn't get to it. We did wick above to 258, but we got rejected there. And so with that being said, since this is, a Fibonacci retracement that's based on, really the beginning at $2.14, what I could see happening, referred to as a retrace to the scene of the crime, this level is kind of like the scene of the crime breaking above that prior high when we got this reversal here. So I could see there being a retrace to a price of right around $2.14. So coming down about 15 cents from current price, maybe bouncing there, finding that as support before continuing higher, breaking above the 1618, above 250, holding that level, getting into the $3 range and maybe up to this 2618 at around a price of $3.14. Pi is a very important number for charts for some reason. I'm just kidding. So let's see. We got also look at this, the 1618. There's a wick high up to that level on January 29th. Also wick high over here. And this is kind of like a, very small shoulder, inverse, or not inverse, just regular head and shoulders there, with that neckline being that purple line. And so, I think that, I got that level marked along with the high over here. I think that's a significant level, and that price will likely be retracing to, let's say, 214, or this purple line's right at, let's say 212. Let's round that down just to be on the safer side. But, with the price action of today, it does kind of look like, since it was a doji, the open and close on the day, let's see, we're at the exact same price, $2.30. But yeah, with that big wick to the upside, that does suggest a rejection. And while I'm not sure if it closed exactly in the bottom quarter of trading, but it definitely closed in the bottom half. So I would think that suggests that there are, sellers up here, as, this did gap down from the previous day's close, wick up to fill that gap, saying we don't need to, retrace to that level. We got it crossed off, and so we can keep heading down. So yeah, I'd say that this is heading down to right around 214, and then maybe evaluate that for a bounce. Maybe that's a good dip buy, but I do see it going lower, so do be cautious with it. And then the next one on the list, I'm going to be looking at Bit Digital, ticker symbol BTBT, which closed today on Monday at a price of $2.72, being up 1 penny in the after hours. And so yeah, let's take a look at this chart. I haven't looked at it in a while. I did draw this trend, this parallel channel, thinking that price was trading right around that level. But I kind of wish I would have drawn these pivot points at the bottom so I could just slide this up to the top there. But what I might want to do instead is maybe I'll just move this over there. Hey, I think that looks pretty good. It was just a little tweak of that downtrend, and it does look like we got rejected from the top of it. Whereas I had it drawn before, it looks like we might have broken out. I was wrong, I would say. But, sometimes we do get fake outs when breaking out of channels like this, and it did look like it was breaking lower when it hit 176, but it got back in that channel. Or, potentially I could adjust this pivot point to, let's say, I like this little peak here. I think that's nice because, it's resistance here, but then it ends up being support, the base of this channel. So I'm just going to draw that over here, really all these levels just being approximate, but I think that looks pretty nice. And then, if I draw those, let's say I make those lines a little bit thicker, so we gray out those ranges around the edge. The only real fake out that stands out was this blow off top here, trading up above that over the course of a couple weeks, maybe a week. And yes, so with that being said, one of the things, I'm doing this in Webull, one of the things I don't like about Webull charting with these parallel channels is there's no midpoint for it. But one thing that I can do, and I guess I completely missed this break from below that channel, excuse me. So they did get, some breaks below, some breaks above, but right now it doesn't look like we're getting a break. It looks like we're getting a rejection from the top of that channel. But so what I can do is I can use the, let's see, trend channel tool, and I'm just going to draw it from, let's see, I'm going to draw it from this point here, like right getting into that channel. This is going to probably not look good at all because it's just based on the standard deviation. So yeah, that's not going to be useful. And so, we can just kind of eyeball, like right here, this looks like it was trading just above the midpoint of that channel, just being approximate. And so there was some support there at that midpoint. And then here, it just kind of bounced around. And so I could see this being rejected and then maybe trading along a trend line here, maybe before bouncing and then getting above that level. So let's say I could see this pulling back to, I don't know, worst case scenario, really, I would say like $2 a share. But with it being at 272, maybe it pulls back to 250, because we like to think in, quarters. Who needs change lower than a quarter anyway? So if this is at, let's say, rounding 275, I could see it coming down to 250 and maybe 225 actually, and finding support there. But maybe it does, an interesting thing, maybe it doesn't pull back to that midpoint. Maybe it just consolidates along here, and that would be forming a bull flag, and then it gets a breakout. Because, what we've seen in the past, we haven't seen really any consolidation below that. We did see it up here, but it started to get exhausted, and, it just couldn't. Here, let's see. We got, looking at the RSI, we got a rejection from the top of that. Just keep trying to get above there. Lower highs in the price, also lower highs in the RSI, so that's not bearish divergence. But we did see, it looks like it just kind of got exhausted there, not being able to hold above it. And you could probably think of that as being like, let's see, this volume here was pretty high when getting up to those levels. But then when retesting it, volume was still pretty high and it couldn't break above. It couldn't get to the next level. And that was just really a one big volume day, whereas over here there were multiple days. And so that did show some weakness here. Lots of volume there being a blow off top, but it couldn't hold. And as price was coming down, volume's still pretty elevated. And let's see, right now, thinking about the volume and the RSI, we're getting a higher high here in the price. RSI is about flat, so you'd want to kind of see the RSI going up with the price, just like you want to see volume going up with the price. And we could actually draw a downtrend from the peaks in those volume there. So yeah, I could see a pullback or maybe a cool off, which would then be maybe bullish consolidation before a break. But right now, it's either going to consolidate where it's at underneath that downtrend, or it might pull back to the middle of that channel and then maybe consolidate there before getting some more energy, some more volume behind it to then break out from this downtrending channel. But yeah, it's a pretty cool chart. I'm impressed that parallel channel worked out so nicely. But I think those are both pretty useful levels with this chart right now. But anyways, I'm going to move on to Cleanspark, ticker symbol CLSK. And, I think this is, one of the bigger miner companies, the ones that I've covered frequently, as you can see on the chart. And I did cover them during earnings, which is why I've got bull flag, question mark, and all of these smaller lines drawn here. So I'm just going to delete them as I, talk, and just kind of clean up the chart a little bit there. Excuse me for not having that cleaned up. I just deleted it. It should go away. A little bit buggy. But anyways, looking at the chart here, what do I see? Of course, there's this orange line at 13.55, and there's this pretty big gap to the downside that's coming down to around $10.54. Yeah, so I think that's a little precarious with that, but I do think that the orange line at 13.56 could be acting as support. However, it did basically act as support here before that run up. And so I could see this either fading to break down to 10.50, or I could see it breaking higher. And so I might actually want to look over at Mara and Riot and then come back to Cleanspark to kind of evaluate that. But really just in general, as far as Bitcoin goes, I do view that we might be seeing, I think that we'll likely see 100K this year. And so with that, I do think that these miners will be taken off. So I would say not necessarily thinking about it from a TA perspective, but just from a fundamental perspective with the halving being behind us. So, miners' rewards are not being cut in half anymore. They're going to be holding, for the next 4 years or so. And so I could see that maybe we do start to, hold this level. Actually, yeah, the 786, we are respecting it. So as long as we're holding, not getting too many closes, if we get any below $15.38, we did close today, I should mention, at a price of $15.70, being up about 10 cents in the after hours. So yeah, from this, what I would look for, it's been coming down, but volume's been pretty flat for a while over here. And I could see this being somewhat, it's a pretty messy, but maybe like a double bottom around 1535. And these are the levels from that Fibonacci retracement that might be significant. So maybe getting above 1664, getting closes above that level might be, the next step in moving higher. But, with that being said, if we are to assume that the bottom is in, what I might do, before I delete that, just so you know, take a picture, I'm going to delete it. Okay, I'm going to do a different retracement, but I'm going to go from the top here. So this was at a high of 2139, coming down to this low, which if I can, I screwed up the initial point. I just wanted to get that low in there. That's at 1503. So, I don't want to have to type it in. That's boring. I screwed that up totally. So let's see, 2139. I'm just going to have to, and 1503, I believe. 2139. So I'm just going to adjust that here, and 1503. All right, so that's kind of the retracement that we're looking at to the levels that might be acting as resistance to the upside. And maybe I do want to add the 0% level. That's going to be the bottom there. And so we do want to be seeing 1503, especially 15 being held as support. But that retracement that I just showed, was it 1664? I forget the number. I'll put it up on the screen. Actually, I might not, because I'm not going to really edit this. But I think that that's a level that we definitely don't want to get closes below 1503. If we get a close below 15, I think it's coming down to 1356. But so as far as moving up to the upside, we got the 236 here at 1653. And so I think that's the next level that we want to see moving to the upside and claiming. And we did, pretty interesting from this down move. We got rejected from, we did make it up to the 786, but that was a pretty quick wick up to it. But we definitely got rejected very clearly from these two lines here, which make the golden pocket. That's the range from the 61.8 or 618 retracement to the 65% retracement. That's referred to as the golden pocket. And so we did bounce up to there, and it does look like we're potentially getting a full retrace, from, let's see, moving up here and then, coming back down to that low. So something to consider. But let's see. I don't know how useful this is for the chart analysis of Cleanspark, but I could see, I'm actually going to undo some of the stuff I just did so we can get a look at that, magic, that retracement I just done. Yeah, 1664. And that 1664, how does that compare to the levels I have over here? 1664, 1653, right around there. We want to be getting up to the mid 16s and holding that, meaning getting closes above that level before then, we don't want to get wicks above and rejections below both of these levels. Then the next one up will be the 382, right around 1750, give or take. So yeah, those are my thoughts on Cleanspark. Hopefully that was helpful. And so here, CORZ, which is CORZ Scientific. As you can see here, I thought we might be getting a retrace to the scene of the crime. Really just being kind of cautious. I think I had drawn that when there was this gap up, but price has continued to go higher. And so I actually went over this in last night's stream. There are timestamps in it. So that's the Sunday night ticker request live. And so that's when I did draw up all of these lines. So I might just refer you to that, although, I should note that for this chart, which was not included in last night's stream, CORZ, got the price action on Monday, closing at a price of $8.21, which is up about $5.53, which was up about 5.53% on the day, which might seem pretty good. But, the thing that we're seeing here, it's like we got a close. This is the highest close. But what did we not get? We didn't get a close above these prior highs. And that's just suggesting that there's some weakness, that it's starting to fade. If it's not able to put in higher closes, there aren't enough buyers up there, and eventually they're going to dry up. This is going to fade, and it's going to come back down. And we can actually see that looking at the volume. So here, with this gap up, we see a surge in volume. 68.79 million shares traded. But then we've just seen it kind of come down. We did get a little bit of a boost in the volume on the 6th, so that was last Thursday. But that's only 29.4 million shares traded. And then on today, the 10th, 13.75. So, we've just got this like downtrending volume. That's starting to show that there's some weakness. We're starting to lose those buyers up here. That means price isn't going to go much higher. And so I do have this high that was hit on the 6th, marked at $8.36. That's drawn, incorrectly with that 36.4. But yeah, $8.36. We really want to see a close above that to suggest strength. I think getting a close above a prior close, I think that's really just kind of a way to fake out retail, because retail probably sees that and thinks, hey, there's a higher close. This is bullish. It's going to keep going higher. But the reality is it's fading. You see that in the volume, not able to put in higher closes. But, with that being said, price went up. But it couldn't close higher. Maybe because volume is lower, we get a surge in volume. Maybe it breaks above 836 and closes above it. But for now, I feel like it's more likely to pull back, and it may not retrace to the scene of the crime at this point, but I do think it could be retracing to the close from June 3rd. That was at a price of $4.87, and that does correspond really nicely with this 100% retracement from this Fibonacci extension that I did. I think that's pretty cool, going from the highs back when it IPO'd or whatever, direct listing, I don't know how that worked, coming down here and then up to the top. That's how I get those levels, and that 100%. Is filling that gap. So I could see that being in the future, but maybe it takes months to get there. Maybe the rally does continue a little bit higher, as we did get a higher high today, but with that volume coming down and that higher high being in, might suggest that it's fading. But anyways, I'm going to switch over to the next one, which is HIVE Digital, ticker symbol HIVE. And here we are looking at the daily chart, of course, with the closing price of $2.91, being up almost 4% on the day. And so, yeah, what am I seeing with this chart? Let's see. Man, I'm only about halfway through this list. This is going to be tough. Yeah, I mean, so what I see with this one, I might do this one a little quick just because I don't have much on the chart, not much to base this on. But what I see is, you got all this, consolidation above that level, that level just being approximate for this big move up. That's an important level of consolidation. More consolidation above that level, kind of, graying, the lines of that level and going a little bit below it, but more or less respecting that area as support. Getting a double bottom here pretty nicely off of that level, getting rejected here, but also kind of getting a fake out break below it here, finding it as support before bouncing, clearly breaking below, testing it as support. And now it looks like, testing it, getting above it, but then breaking through that support. It didn't really act as notable support, more like resistance in that general area. But yeah, I mean, we got rejected from that line, and that is right around $2.97 or $3 a share. It really does kind of make sense. I just kind of threw that line up there based on the chart, but right around $3 does make sense. And so let's see. One thing that we could do, I'm just trying to think about what I could do here with the chart. So what I might do, this is just going to be a little bit rough. I'm just going to take a Fibonacci extension from the low here, going up to the top, and then pull back down to the lows here. See if there are any levels, that match up with, price action we're looking at. Hey man, it looks like we maybe got rejected from that approximate 236 level right around 288. Did close above it today, but really all of these breaks at that level, it's all kind of gray area. So I do feel like this could be fading some more if I throw up, let's see, the volume profile, I'm sure that there's something that sticks out there. Yeah, this volume shelf, the volume point of control is at $3.14. Like I said earlier in this video, pie, man, it's always popping up in these videos, in these charts. It's everywhere. Going circles around that number, man. And maybe we do pull back to the low, or the volume low at the volume average low, VAL, and that is at a price of $2.45. And that does look like, I zoom in, it gets adjusted. Sorry about that. But it does look like it was support over here, with that little bull flag before the move up. So, I'm just wondering if, we're going to get a rejection, because it does seem like there's a confluence of levels here, $3, the 236, and maybe this, fib extension is just kind of hand wavy. I'm not really sure. I just think that it's a nice way to give kind of approximate levels, see if they line up with anything that does make sense. And, to me, it does make sense as getting a rejection, but maybe there'd be a pullback to, the highs over here, finding that as support, because I could see this as being kind of like, there's dead cat bounce, maybe this is like a dead cat drop, or like a kangaroo drop, maybe, because it drops and then bounces, because kangaroos do that. So, or a dead bunny hop, something like that. So I could see that, maybe pulling back to 270 or maybe 250, somewhere around there, before then getting, some steam and going higher. But I mean, volume has gone up as price was going up, but then there was that, look at this. Yeah, I mean, this is a bearish engulfing candle when getting to those levels, completely engulfing the prior two trading days, or the candles of those days, the opens and closes. And so, that wick high is around 3.10. So yeah, maybe that's pulling back. I'd say this is probably pulling back, but it doesn't mean it's going to be a long-term pullback. And with that being said, 218, we do not want to see closes below that. That would not look good. But then anyways, on to the next ticker. I'm going to be looking at HUT8 Mining, which is ticker symbol HUT. And here, yeah, not much history on this one. It's still trading. Yeah. So let's see. What do I see with this chart? Maybe there's a downtrend here that I could draw with a fake out, a break above it, or a break above it, I guess I could say. But yeah, so I'm just going to connect the line from the high over here. And then, I'm just going to arbitrarily draw it here so it intersects with that. But yeah, I mean, does that make any sense? Getting some rejections there. I think that kind of makes sense, but I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing, because we also kind of got the same thing on the bottom here, maybe a little bit, not so much. I'm just going to adjust this. Yeah, if the line doesn't do what you want it to, just adjust it. That's how I do all this stuff. I'm kidding. I try to make it make sense. Yeah, so with that being said, It does look like it potentially got rejected from that, and I could be seeing a pullback. As long as there's a higher high, a higher low. There have been higher, even this one was a higher low than over there. So these higher lows, just kind of bouncing up. And so I could see it continuing to bounce at these levels and then break higher. So yeah, maybe a retracement to around $9. That makes sense. That's like a 10%, I guess it's a 9% drop from where it's currently at. Let's see. I'm just going to check this to see how good my math is. From current price to $9. Let's see, is that 8.7? That's pretty close to 9%. That was a good approximation. My math skills are all right. So, yeah, and I mean, I don't necessarily see any patterns that really stand out. Maybe I'm missing something, but I'm just trying to look for like head and shoulders or inverse head and shoulders. Yeah, because I mean, you don't really see that here. Maybe this is like a cup and handle, or maybe this is a cup, and yeah, we're getting the handle over here, but I don't really see a inverse head and shoulders pattern or anything, because if this was to be the shoulder, it's higher than the head here. If it was to be maybe, I mean, yeah, this isn't a head and shoulders pattern because that neckline doesn't. Maybe that neckline does connect. Maybe let's see. Yeah, so maybe there's a head and shoulders there. So I guess that's something to be cautious of, but I do think that's kind of a stretch because it did bounce from here. So I don't think that head and shoulders pattern is in play. I don't think that is one, but I do think it could be pulling back, like I said, to $9 a share. That could be an excellent dip buying opportunity. So I'd look for that if wanting to establish a position. There are tons of other trades, so don't get hung up on this one if not in it, but I could see it coming back to $9. But then anyway, switching over to the next one, which is Iris Energy, ticker symbol IREN, closing at a price on the day of $10.31, being down about 2%, a little over 2% on the day. And this one, yeah, let's see, is that an all-time high? Is that no, it's not an all-time high. But, going back, let's see, how far does this go back in time? Back to 2022. So this is pretty substantial, getting to these highs and putting in, such a massive wick, even though this was a green candle on Friday, and let's see, no gap there or anything, not a gap up, but that's an inverted hammer candle, which up here, I believe it's either a shooting star or an evening star. I think it's a shooting star. I'm not going to look it up, but it's one of those stars that suggests a top could be in an inverted hammer, whether that's at a top or a bottom, whether you have a hammer candle at a top or a bottom. When you actually see a hammer at the top here, that's a hanging man. Since this is an inverted hammer, with that wick up there, it suggests that there aren't enough buyers to be getting priced to close above there. It might have closed green, but let's see. What was the close of Thursday the 6th? The close was $10.27. What was the close? Wait, yeah, the close. No, the high. That's what I want to look at. The high was $10.51. What was the close on Friday? The close was $10.53. So I think that's potentially pretty good. But, with that big wick up there, the next high to close above is at $11.50. It's kind of far away. And, this does look like, I believe that's like a gravestone doji or gravestone pattern. Gravestone doji would be, doji would be opening and closing at the exact same price. Whereas today we opened at 1035, closed at 1031. So, that's like not so great. And it does look like, I don't know if that's the exact bottom quarter of the trading for the day, but it's pretty close, definitely the bottom third. With this big wick up here, I think that it's, just starting to get rejected around 1050. And so I could see this fading. Maybe, best case scenario, if it does pull back, there's some consolidation here. That might be acting as support right around $9.13. Maybe it gets down to 9. I don't know. 9 seems to be a theme as it was for HUT. But yeah, I could see this pulling back a little bit. And also, I mean, we do have, the RSI being, above 70, still 77.84, whereas on Friday it was 81.11. Maybe that's putting in topping signals. But, it did not go as high today as it did on Friday, and it is pulling back in the RSI. Volume's also coming down a little bit. So maybe that's, getting ready for, the next level higher. But, yeah, because I mean here, we saw this big, this candle with that big wick up closing definitely in the bottom quarter. But then the next day, got some moves to the upside. So maybe there's something there. And actually on that note, maybe I could do a trend line that, would be potentially useful. And so I'm just going to start it from over here and see how well this lines up. Maybe, yeah, I mean, with that, this is, just approximate. So give me a break here if there's an open below it. But with this, I see that that trend line was tested here, and maybe a retest of that trend line could coincide with testing like maybe $9 to $9.30, finding support there with that trend line going up, and also with that consolidation there. So I could see that happening, but, yeah, maybe it could be going a little bit higher, but I think that it really needs to get a close above 1150 to suggest this would be continuing to the upside in any substantial way. But as of right now, I think pull back to, about $1 from the closing price. I could see that happening. So I'd be cautious with IREN. And then next one is Marathon Digital, ticker symbol MARA. And so, man, I've got this Fibonacci retracement. I feel like I should just delete it because maybe something else would stand out. But, I do have this level 1951. What does that correspond with? It does correspond with a high here, highs here as well. So maybe that's significant, pretty close to the highs here. And there was a bounce over here right around, $19.50. Excuse me if I said $9.50. I meant to say $19.50. And yeah, we did close below that level here. Not that that specific number is really, that important. But just looking at the chart here, I think, again, we could do, maybe a trend line from these lows. And it looks like we might have potentially broken, this level that we have been respecting, getting multiple bounces above it. So, I would look for, closes. What was today's high? The high today was 1992. That can't be right. Really, it went up that much? That's pretty crazy. Yeah, so just because a green candle, I'm surprised. Yeah, with that spinning top. A spinning top does suggest not necessarily a reversal, but kind of indecision. And so I could see this as being kind of a fake out break. So potentially this is a dip buying opportunity. One thing that we do see is that, as price is coming down here, volume is trending down. So with that being said, volume's not super high down here relative to, this big drop here, but actually there was a big drop there. Volume did come down, spinning top. Yeah, I mean, I would think that this is a potential fake out break below that downtrend. Again, it just being an approximate level. And yeah, so I would look for a reclaim of that, getting a close above today's high, 1992, getting close above $20 a share would look super good. But right now, yeah, I mean, it does look like it's fading. So be cautious. If there is a close, two levels that I think are important to pay attention to. So the low of Friday, the 7th, the low was 1906. The low from today was 1878. So those are two levels we don't want to be seeing closes below, because that would suggest that there aren't enough buyers to be scooping up shares, that there's a close, price settling out at that level. That suggests it's going to keep fading. But I could see it retesting this uptrend, breaking above it, and this acting as a fake out break. So that's what I would bet with this one. But if it does come down further to the downside, as down moves usually do, I'd say $17. It does seem like there's a good amount of overlap in the trading here. And so that makes me think $17 if we do see maybe a big catastrophic kind of drop in Bitcoin, as that happens sometimes. Maybe the miners would be seeing that, and we could be seeing a fade here down to 17. But like I said, I do think I'm leaning more in this being a fake out break, and it does reclaim that level. Getting up to $20 a share and closing above it would be really good. But now, I'm going to go over Riot, ticker symbol RIOT, and let's see. with this. I'm just kind of lining that up. Yeah, I mean, the 618 where price is currently at, that is right around $9.65, closing just below it, unfortunately, at a price of $9.90, but being up 1.8% on the day and being up in the after hours about 5%. I don't really know how that math works, but it says $9.94 up 5 cents. From $9.90. So yeah, there's a rounding error there somehow. But with this, 618 level, just looking back at historical levels, corresponds with the bounce that we saw here. So I feel like this one is, testing a pretty important level. Could I see it coming down to the 786, which is at like 884? Yeah, and I could see it coming down to $9 a share too. But I would like to see, I like to kind of wait and see how this level holds. But considering this one and that was, a part of this, trend line that I have drawn here, that makes me think that was kind of a notable bounce back at that level. I think there's going to be notable support there. If I throw up the volume profile, actually, I mean, we're below that volume point of control, which is right around 10.19. So yeah, let's see if we can get some closes this week above $10 a share. Closing the week above $10 a share, I think would look pretty good. Yeah, I mean, I guess it's in kind of a precarious place. But I feel like less so than the other ones that I've gone over in this video. And yeah, I mean, it does. I mean, I guess I should mention this gap here. That gap was filled. There is this other gap here, though. It's smaller, but there is a gap here. The close on April 18th was at a price of $8.29. I don't necessarily think that's happening. I mean, this did get a wick down to the 786 here. That happened on the 6th of May. So maybe that's the bottom and that's what's going on. So I'd look for that, finding that as support. But yeah, hopefully that was helpful for that one, because I am going to switch over to the final ticker, which is Terawulf, ticker symbol WULF. Kind of a tough one to spell out there. Wolf. All right. And so here, let's see, got this uptrending line. It did get rejected from that. Also kind of looks like it's a double top. If we look at the RSI here, and I don't know how significant this is, but we've got the highs over here corresponding with a high in the RSI of 84.71, and then we get these lower highs here. Nothing too crazy going on. Lower highs in the RSI as well, so there's nothing to worry about. But then here we get a higher high, and RSI is not as high. And so of course, if price does break higher, RSI could break higher than this high of 84.71, like I just said, but currently the high in the RSI is at 72.04. And so with higher highs being in the price, lower highs being in the RSI, that is bearish divergence. And so, while this is a little bit arbitrary because, we did get some breaks above this high at $2.72, I could see a retrace to that, even though, actually, I guess it was flat on the day because it, closed at, closed at yesterday's close. But, it did go up. I think that it could pull back lower to like 272, maybe 275 to kind of retest that level because, yeah, I mean, you think about it, 272 doesn't matter that much. It doesn't have to be precisely that level. And so, but with that being said, there was a rejection here, kind of a double top and a triple top. And so, we haven't been able to get above that level in any significant capacity until, the 6th of June. We got a pretty big break above that when price went up by 15%, just over 15%. And so with that being said, I think there could be a retrace to that level around 275. So that's what I would look for, but I would think that'd be a good dip buying opportunity before the next leg up, maybe getting to $4 a share. So those are my thoughts on Terawulf and all of these tickers that I've gone over. But those are just my thoughts. If you found them helpful, make sure you like the video and like the video. I forget my little end spiel here because I'm tired from recording nonstop for 48 minutes. Thanks a lot for watching and take care.